All right, now we're going to do free response 1 from day 4. We're told here that we are given the derivative of solid waste over time, and we're given this differential equation, and we were told that it measures in tons from here. So some beginning information. A, use the line tangent to the graph at t equals 0 to approximate the amount of solid waste in the landfill for the first 3 months. So at time t equal 1/4. So anytime we see line tangent, we need to think point and we need to think slope. All right. So for our point, we're told to do it at t equals 0. So 0. So the question is, well, how much was in it at t0? And we were told at the beginning there were 1,400 tons. So 1,400. As far as the slope goes, we're going to use the differential equation to figure that out. So the slope at t equals 0 would be 1/25 of w. So I need to put 1,400 in for w. So we're going to get 1/25 times 1,400 minus 300. All right, and that's going to give us 1,100 over 25, and you could keep it, or you could actually try to divide it out, and it divides out to 44, so that's our slope. All right, so you got 1 point for finding the slope on this. Okay, then we build the equation y minus 1,400 equals 44 times x minus 0. All right, and then we want to put 1/4 in for x. So we get y minus 1,400 equals 44 times 1/4. So that's going to be 11. And then if we add 1,400, we get 1,411 tons as the approximation. We got a point for doing that. All right. So not too bad in terms of building that equation out. Part B says find the second derivative in terms of w, and then use it to determine. So we'll do that second part in a second. Let's do the second derivative. So we have here dw, so d squared dt squared is equal to the derivative of this, which would be 1/25, times the derivative of w, which is dw dt, times the derivative of negative 300, which is 0. Okay, so that starts us, but we don't want to leave the dw dt. We know what dw dt is. It's this. So we're going to get 1/25 times 1/25 w minus 300. Okay. Now that technically is your second derivative. You would get a point for doing that. If we want to multiply it out to 1/625 w minus 300, that is up to us. Okay. Now, it says use this to determine whether we had an under or overestimate on the t equal 1/4. Now, at t equal 1/4, when we put this in, we know w was 1,400. And so at t equal 1/4, d squared w d. So what we know is that when I put that amount in, I'm going to get a positive number here. Obviously, we have a positive number here. So we know at this value, at this time, the second derivative is positive. And because the second derivative is positive, that means our function is concave up. And when we use tangent lines on concave up, the approximation we use is always going to be under the actual amount. So the answer in part A is an underestimate. And that's really all they need. Because of this part right here, that's going to connect us down to there. You could say more, but you don't need to. 1 point for the second derivative, and then 1 point for that. Okay. Then the last thing here is to find the particular solution. So this is that separation, what we were doing last week. So we're going to take our initial dw dt equal to 1/25 w minus 300. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to separate it. So I'm going to bring the w minus 300 over here, bring the dt over there. Okay, if I integrate now, what we're going to get is the natural log of the absolute value w minus 300 equal to 1/25th t plus c. All right. So far they gave you a point for separating the variables. They gave you a point for the antiderivatives here. Back then they gave you a point actually for writing plus c down, and then they'll give you another point for figuring out what it equals. Today probably they would only give you the 1 point for that, but not a big deal. Let's go ahead and figure out what c equals. So we're going to put 0 in for t, and we're going to put 1400 in for w. That's going to give us the natural log of 1100 equals c. So again, back then they gave you a point for that, probably not today, but they probably just give you 1 for the combo. Now we have our c value. Let's figure out what w equals. So the natural log of w minus 300 is equal to 1/25th t plus natural log of 1100. Raise it to the power of e. We're going to get w minus 300 absolute value equals e to the 1/25th t plus natural log of 1100. And again, we can split that into e to this times e to that, which would turn into 1100. You don't have to do that. The AP will not penalize you for not doing it, but it does look a little bit nicer for sure. All right, we have to decide if we want the positive or negative here. And so if I were to put 0 in for t, I'm going to get 1100. If I put 1400, I get 1100. So I like what it is. I don't want it to be the negative version here. And then if I add 300, I end up with my final answer. Now again, they gave you 1 point for doing that, and then that's how you do it.